In 1975, a 24-year-old engineer walked into a lab holding a toaster-sized machine. It weighed 8 pounds. It took 23 seconds to capture a single black-and-white image. And it changed the world forever. His name was Steven Sasson. He worked for Kodak. And what he built that day was the world's first digital camera. When Sasson showed his invention to management, the response was chilling. "That's cute," they said, "but don't tell anyone about it." That single decision, made in a boardroom in Rochester, New York, would take a company worth $31 billion and turn it into a punchline. This is the story of how Kodak built the future and then buried it with its own hands. To understand why Kodak killed its own invention, you have to understand what Kodak actually was. For nearly a century, Kodak didn't sell cameras. Kodak sold film. Cameras were just the delivery system, cheap, sometimes even given away. Because the real money was in the film you bought again and again, the processing you paid for every time, the paper prints you picked up at the drugstore. It was one of the most brilliant business models in American history. So when Sasson's digital camera showed up, needing no film, no chemicals, no darkroom, Kodak's own executives looked at it and saw a threat to the empire they'd built, not an opportunity. They knew exactly what it would do to their business. And they chose comfort over change. For the next 2 decades, Kodak kept making that same choice, again and again. By the 1980s, Sony had already released a digital camera concept. By the 1990s, digital sensors were improving fast. And Kodak, the company that literally held the original patent, was still trying to protect its film business instead of building the future it already owned. Here's the part that stings the most. Kodak wasn't blind. They ran internal studies. Their own researchers predicted, with unsettling accuracy, that digital photography would replace film by the mid-2000s. Why? Because Kodak had over 140,000 employees tied to film production, entire factories, entire supply chains, entire towns built around film manufacturing. Killing film meant killing jobs, killing plants, killing the identity of the company itself. So instead of leaping into digital, Kodak tried to do both. Protect the dying business while quietly dabbling in the new one. It's one of the most dangerous positions any company can be in. Not blind to change, just too invested in the past to fully commit to the future. Meanwhile, competitors felt no such loyalty. Canon, Nikon, and Sony had no film empire to protect. By the early 2000s, Kodak was finally trying to catch up. They released digital cameras. In 2005, Kodak was even the top-selling digital camera brand in the US. But selling cameras and making money from cameras are two very different things. Digital cameras had razor-thin profit margins compared to film. Kodak was essentially trading a business that made huge margins for one that barely made any at all. They were winning market share and losing money doing it. Then came the punch nobody saw coming, not from Canon, not from Sony, but from a device that wasn't even trying to be a camera: the smartphone. When the iPhone launched in 2007, its camera was a joke by professional standards. Grainy, low resolution, nothing close to a real camera. But it didn't need to be good. It needed to be convenient. It was already in your pocket. Why buy a separate camera when the phone in your hand could shoot, edit, and share a photo in seconds? In January 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy protection. A company that once employed over 140,000 people, a company whose name was practically a synonym for photograph, was reduced to selling off patents just to survive. The most quoted lesson from Kodak's collapse usually goes something like, "They failed to innovate." But that's not actually true. Kodak innovated the very thing that destroyed them. They didn't fail to see the future, they built it with their own hands, in their own lab, in 1975.